this is Kelly Bodden. I'm the host of the Hello Live podcast, and welcome to the Q&A companion for Becca Eisenberg's episode on integrating speech and language goals into cooking and meal times. And as always, I want to remind you that if you haven't already listened to that episode, pause this now, go take a listen, and then come back and listen to this one. It's like 25 minutes chock full of great tips, and this conversation that we're about to have, it's going to make a whole lot more sense if you do things in that order. So anyway, Becca is here with me. Hi, Becca.
Hi.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you. It was a great opportunity.
Yeah, it's fun. So I have to say that Becca and I had an epic time getting this scheduled. I think we tried to schedule it for like 3 months, I think.
I know.
Yeah. And, Becca's on the East Coast, I'm in the West Coast. And so this is quite monumental that we're able to pull this off. So thank you for sticking with it. So for folks who aren't familiar with you and your website, do you want to share just a little bit about yourself and your site?
Oh, sure. So my website actually was, I began my website because I was having problems with my own kids sitting down for mealtime, just being very distracted and not being able to focus on eating and not really finishing their food. So what I decided to do was, instead of, using any electronics, which I was really trying to get away from, was I figured, you know what, they're sitting down for a meal, so let me just start reading books, because I was always trying to get that time in with them to listen to books. And I'm like a really big children's book fan. I love reading. I love listening to books. And when I was a child, it was just one of those great things, right? That I've always had such a positive experience with. So I started reading books, and then it just sort of became, my kids loved it. And I saw such great changes in our meals that my kids were able to sit down, they were able to listen to the book. And then not only were they eating better, they were learning at the same time. And so I really felt, kind of passionate about it. And I was like, you know what, let me use my website as sort of a forum to be able to talk about the books that we're reading at mealtime. And also incorporating a lot of special needs stuff, because I do work with children with special needs and adults with special needs. So kind of, taking those books and then modifying them for a child with special needs, so that other parents who have children with special needs are able to, be able to modify those books for their own children. And then also for speech pathologists, I also have a lot of links to different guides for these books, teacher's guides, which has some discussion questions and stuff like that, which can be used in like a speech and language session. So it started out as like more of like a food blog, and then it sort of turned into a, mealtime blog, and it's been fun. It's been really fun to be able to have like this forum to be able to talk about things that I love. So
right, it's great. I mean, it's a great site, and it's very clear looking at it. Like, it's this great coming together of a bunch of things that you're passionate about.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I love you have this line on there. You say, as a working mom, I found it challenging to cook and watch my children and keep them focused and have a relaxing meal. I mean, that's just whether or not your kids are typical or have special needs. I mean, it's hard work. It's hard work to get good food into them and not go crazy.
Yeah, and I also feel like at the end of the day, I think we all there's always something we could look back and say, oh, it'd be nice if we had spent more time doing that or whatever. But I always felt like at least I had that mealtime. Right. At least I had that 20 minutes of their attention to being able to read books, So I always felt like that was a really helpful thing for me. And, it was so. Yeah,
it's a really good thing. And I think that, yeah, like I said, it really, as a speech path, I think, in my early career, coached parents, as I'm sure you did too, did a lot of sort of like, oh, well, do this at meal times and do this and this. And then when I had my own, I was like, oh my word, this is actually quite challenging. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely know what you're saying. And so I, like I said, I thought you had some really great tips. And I love that you talked about how food is so motivating and it's so culturally important. And it's by helping kids learn to cook and even make just the most basic things, it really helps them with their long-term independence.
Yeah, and also their confidence. I mean, to feel confident that they could, if they're hungry, they're going to be able to go into the fridge and make that sandwich, and be able to, do the simple activities. It's a good self-esteem booster. Saying, I did that, I made that.
Right. Everybody wins. Like I feel like with my own kids. Now that they can scramble their own egg, I'm like, this is awesome. They say they're hungry. I say get some food. So I think that's even more important when kids are not typically developing and that and they're underestimated. People think,
oh, definitely,
well, they could never do that. And really something like, there's so many things that they can make. Like you mentioned pudding and, obviously not a super healthy choice,
but even like like I've even done a smoothie or like a yogurt parfait, like even just taking ready-made yogurt and then having some fruit and maybe having some granola, and then having them, do something like that. There's just so many different, even like making tea, right. It seems like it's the most simple thing, but you have to heat up the water. You have to find the flavor of the tea that you want. You have to like put the tea bag in there and then you just want to add all your stuff,
right.
So.
Right. And I think, one thing I was thinking about when you were talking is how great it would be, to work with a child on whatever they really liked, if it was yogurt parfait, and you could just work on it and work on it and work on it. And then you can help facilitate for the family, like having that stuff sort of prepped and ready to go always. There's a special corner of the fridge that always has their yogurt. And then, so they sort of they were set up so that they could do it whenever they wanted to.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And you know what? And it just works in a family's routine, too, because for anyone to prepare their food is just a good thing. So, like, it's really, there's like no, to me, there's like no disadvantage to being able to prepare your own food.
No.
So, I feel like that's a great idea to be able to have a special section when they're able to do that.
Right. So you mentioned a few apps, which, I kind of scribbled down, and I'll put them in the blog post, so that people can have kind of ready access to that. But do you find that you use apps sort of exclusively, or do you still print pictures off for sequencing, or kind of do a mix?
I do a mix. Like I you know what? I do love the apps. But I definitely feel like there's always that need for that printout, because a lot of times I'll use communication boards, or I'll print out like photos of different ingredients, and then we'll just, go through it, and then we'll have that as a visual cue. Because at the end of the day, as much as an app is, it's great. Like, unless you actually prepare everything before with the app, you don't want to spend your time cooking, kind of like playing around with the app and trying to figure it out type of thing.
Right.
So, it's better when it's kind of like you have it ready, and then if you could do some stuff when you're cooking, but having those boards available, having those pictures available, definitely having that recipe there, for each person that you're working with, I think is definitely important.
Sure.
So whether it's all the words, or whether it's like, there's also a lot of websites out there that have, it's basically picture-based recipes.
Oh,
so I think I'll share it with you later, but cool. There's a couple of different websites where you could literally download the recipe, and it's like mostly pictures.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So,
and that helpful. Sort of brings me to my next question. And So you were talking a lot about AAC users, which I think that category bit you talk about where they really, it's so critical that they learn categories. So critical. And that's something that's often skipped over. And then when we're implementing the device and they can't quite navigate it all, it's because they don't have categories really firmly.
Exactly.
And so then you're like going backwards and it's challenging. So, if you're working on a recipe, and it's a high-tech or mid to high-tech device, do you pre-program or build this board, or what do you do?
Well, actually, most of the devices now, they actually have everything already there.
Sure.
So, like, even like Proloco to go, like if let's say you're using that app,
yeah,
they have like that fruits and vegetables kind of set up. They have the actions. So you could already have that stuff ready made. I mean, like the Nova Chat has that stuff already made. But if you're using something like a mid-tech device or a low-tech device, you will have to make those boards before. Right. So, using Board Maker or whatever program you're going to use, that is something definitely more ready-made. But there are also apps out there that you could just make those simple boards. And you could easily just, set it up like a Go Talk Now. You could set up with a whole bunch of different ingredients on there, or even like Choice Board Communicator, which is, like switches around the pictures. I use a lot for assessment, but that's also another tool you could use. I mean, there's a lot of, even on like Proloco to go, you can like make a blank and then you could fill in some basic ingredients on there. You could make it little or as much as you want.
Right.
So.
And I mean, if you had a recipe, when I did early childhood, I did a lot more cooking, and I just had it in my sort of folder. I had my hot chocolate folder. And so I had all the pictures printed out and things like that. Because I used to also like to, run them through it, and then I'd send their own copies home. So for kids who didn't have devices, and then they could have their own copies to sequence at home.
Exactly. And so, I think before, like I would, if you're doing something like no-tech, like the communication board, definitely have that communication board ready. Like I used to have like a smoothie board. I used to have all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But what I like to do now, if someone has like a dedicated system, I really like to incorporate all their like core words and stuff into cooking so that they're not just sort of focused on that one page. Right. So let's say for like hot chocolate, like knowing that the marshmallows under dessert, and maybe like hot chocolate's under beverages, and that the mug is actually under like kitchen or whatever it is, or like really talking about that and saying, where do you want the mug? Do you want the mug in a different category, and asking them. And so like they navigate their system better when they're able to use the vocabulary that they already have if they have a dedicated system. Yes. And now it's like so easy because that stuff is just set up so nicely. Yeah. Like not like remember like 15 years ago, it wasn't set up like that. So now it's set up in a really, really nice fluid way that you're able to kind of use that vocabulary that's already on there. So
right. And reprogramming and moving things does not require like
right. And the other thing, if you are looking for a good like no-tech board, for somebody who like doesn't, let's say, is not able to make the board, they don't know how to, there's a Board Maker Share, right? And that's a free online community, and you could literally search, and you're able to print out those activities that someone already did. That it's like you don't have to create it; you could just kind of upload it and print it.
I love that.
So it's great.
That.
They really have a lot of stuff
not reinventing the wheel. So nice. So if you talked a little bit about asking what if, what would happen if we left it in too long? And do you ever actively sabotage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, not in a way that would totally ruin the recipe, right. But I'll like start to, and then I'll be like, you know what I'm saying? I'll be like, oh, what are we doing now? Whoops. Like, look what I'm doing. And so I do, I'm a big, like, it's one of those big strategies that I love to use because it's not only good problem solving, but it's kind of funny, and it kind of lightens the mood a little bit because one of the things I really want to focus on is just having fun with it and not being so serious about it.
Right.
I mean, not so much fun with the person is like not engaging in it, but really kind of being more lighthearted about it. and saying, well, even saying like this morning, I was saying, well, what happens if we add too much salt? What's that going to taste like? And then, or even, this is what I've done. A lot of times I'll do activities based on even pre-cooked stuff. So if we'll take something like a ready-made pizza to put in the oven.
Sure.
I would say, what would happen if we put the plastic, like if we didn't take the plastic off of the pizza and we just put the pizza in just like this? What's going to happen?
Right.
So you could do something like that. But I mean, as far as there's definitely different ways of sabotaging it. And as I said before, it's like, if it doesn't come out good, then it's like a good lesson learned.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think kids also love correcting adults. They love it if they think you screwed up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They love if you they love to fix your screw up. So that's always a fun thing to do. Is there, I was thinking about wrapping up here. Is there anything else that you really wanted to share?
No, I think that was it for today.
Yeah. This is really great. And thanks again so much for doing this.
Thank you.
And before I let you go, I want to remind people they can find you at gravitybread.com and then on all of the social media sites. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I have a Facebook and a Twitter page. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, right. Everybody's hanging out on social media, which I can, even though it's like partially my job, it still is so overwhelming.
Oh, yeah. No, it definitely can be very overwhelming.
Yeah. So people can find you there. And as always, we will have all of Becca's information posted with the episodes at the hellofoundation.com and with all of our other podcasts as well. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, which is a great way to have them delivered directly to your device. And we always want to hear from you. So, of course, leave a comment, or you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. And let us know what you think, what you want to hear, questions, all of that stuff. So thanks again, Becca, and to everybody for listening. And we'll talk to everybody next time.